What's up, everybody? KleverKrok back once again for another Pokemon Draft Viability Analysis mouthful title video. So, today, as you can tell, we are going to be talking about Mr. Venusaur, mainly his Mega Evolution. Though, if you go check out Season 3, Week 9 of the GTA, watch the Zubatman's match, you can see the use of the non-mega form in a good way. Side note aside, we are just going to go ahead and dive in and just kind of talk about Mega Venusaur mainly. So it gets the ability Thick Fat, which makes fire and ice type moves half. Now that basically means that even though it says it's super effective, and it's technically super effective, that doesn't mean it does 2 times the damage like most super effective moves would do. Because of Thick Fat, it halves the damage, so even though it says super effective, it doesn't do super effective damage since the damage is halved. So that leaves Mega Venusaur, which a grass poison typing is just a really good typing in general, but normally it would have Psychic and Flying, which it still holds, and then Fire and Ice. So from 4 to 2, and it's a really strong defensive Pokemon. So having those two types in Flying and Psychic, which, aside from Brave Bird, like Pokemon that learn Brave Bird and have a reliable attack stat, and aside from strong Psychic sweepers, Mega Venusaur is usually a 3-hit to 4-hit KO on most things, because it just, in general, it's so bulky with the 123 defense, with the 120 special defense, and the 80 HP is actually not bad either. It's not the best, but it's definitely, like, fine. And then you get the attack stat, which is 100, which isn't bad at all, so you could definitely run, like, physical moves if you wanted. And it gets crazy things that we'll talk about here in a second, like Outrage and Earthquake and stuff like that. And then the Spadef stat is also really good at 120. So it's just really rounded. The special attack is really good too. So even though it's not fast, it is just a bulky, hard thing to deal with if you don't have a dedicated Pokemon like Staraptor, Talonflame, Braviary, even though it could be a speed tie on offensive. Of course, things that have like Psyshock. But, another reason why I really like Mega Venusaur in the draft format is because you don't know how he's going to be built when you face him. So, you could bring Psyshock, and he's actually physically defensive rather than specially. And so if that happens, you're kind of screwed, because then it doesn't do as much as you'd hoped. But vice versa, you could bring Psychic, and it's a special defensive, variant. And then, it still hits really hard. It gets things like Leech Seed, it gets Synthesis, it gets Sludge Bomb, of course, and Giga Drain. And then it gets other crazy stuff. So it's just really, really versatile, and it's also just really good at what it does. So it's not like super wide coverage is like really used. It's pretty much used with different stat, distributions, but it's used with the same moves essentially most of the time. So we'll just take a look here. So, you got some physical moves like Earthquake, what else? Giga Impact. Knockoff. See, it gets Knockoff, which is a really good, good thing to have. If you have something that's not got a reliable way to get Knockoff off without losing a Pokemon, Knockoff on Venusaur is an option. It's not like the best thing ever. It also gets Outrage. It gets really strong Power Whip, considering the fact that it actually, since it's a grass type, it gets that stab buff. Stuff like that. So it's not like super huge coverage, but I mean, having Earthquake is not something to ignore. Outrage and Knockoff. It's got some pretty crazy stuff. So now let's look at the special moves. It's got all kinds of grass attacks like Grass Knot, Giga Drain, Energy Ball. It's got Leaf Storm even, Petal Dance, Sludge Bomb, of course, Solar Beam. So again, not a ton of coverage when it comes to the different types of moves it can learn, but it has really strong stats, and I think that's what really makes it, like it can be a physical wall, special wall, or just a special sweeper, or just a bulky sweeper. So, we're looking at, let's get back to this real quick. So it gets things like, I think Yeah, it gets Grass Whistle. Leech Seed, which is really good. It gets Sleep Powder, which if you're running any sort of Sun team or you bring Sunny Day, it goes up to 100% accuracy. It gets Swords Dance, which is worth considering. It also gets Growth, I believe, which in the Sun it gets it's a +2 to attack and special attack. Worry Seed is something to consider having sometimes. It gets Sub, so it has its own variants of things. It's got Amnesia, Curse, which is interesting. But either way, it's got all kinds of stuff. So that makes it good. It's not like the most wide move pool by any means, but it's definitely like a strong Pokemon. And the biggest thing is because, like I said, you can run. This is like probably the most offensive variant because it's as fast as it can get and it still has a good special attack stat. Still really bulky, just passing over the 300 HP milestone. And then you've got bulky defense and special defense, which is nothing to like ignore. It's definitely really strong. So the other one, obviously, this is like a physically defensive stat. You can still see that he has a decent special attack stat with a really strong physical defense. If you run him special, which I think this is probably what it would be if you ran a specially defensive set. Again, really bulky on either side. And if you bring the wrong set on your Pokemon, especially with Psychic types, if that's your only answer, excuse me, that can be a problem. Because this thing can wall out a lot, and if there's no way to get rid of, this thing, it's literally just going to wall your entire team. Obviously, if you bring something like Ferrothorn and you don't have HP Fire or Mega Venusaur, that's a really good answer for him. But either way, he's just a really strong Mon in general. And so, I guess what I should also add is what I was referring to with the ability Chlorophyll is that in the Sun his speed is doubled, so if you don't Mega Evolve and you have the Sun up with, Ninetales, or you have Sunny Day on something else and it goes down, or you switch in after that, its speed is doubled. You could, I think it still keeps that speed on the first turn it Mega Evolves. You could get a big hit off there, or wait to Mega Evolve and take advantage of that Sun. So it's got a decent move, or like ability pool. It's not the best by any means, but it's definitely worth considering when bringing something that surprises your opponent. Again, I think the stat distribution is really what makes it strong, which is a great advantage to have in any sort of Pokemon that can be offensive or mainly defensive. This thing can, be built in pretty much any way, and it'll be still hard to take down, I think. So that's pretty much all I've got to say about Mega Venusaur. I'd say usually you'll see things like Leech Seed, or, it's Sludge Bomb. What else? Giga Drain or Energy Ball. Maybe Synthesis. Maybe Sleep Powder. So you could run Synthesis instead of Leech Seed. You could run Hidden Power Fire for the Steel types. Stuff like that. You could also run Earthquake because it doesn't have a terrible, if you run a negative Speed Nature, you can have a decent Earthquake hit things like Heatran. So it's definitely a Pokemon that can really cover a lot of grounds in the draft format. I think that it's strong also in just the regular OEU metagame, but it has a lot of advantages that you can really exploit in the draft format. So I guess what I will finish this up with is giving Mega Venusaur an A, because I personally think that Mega Venusaur has a lot of different options, even if its move pool is somewhat shallow. The Grass Poison typing, along with Thick Fat, really makes this a scary threat to deal with if you don't have the right Pokemon drafted specifically for it. Like I said, birds like Talonflame, Braviary, Staraptor, Crobat even, if you don't have things that can hit it hard with flying type attacks, mainly physical ones, then you're going to be in trouble, because usually somebody's going to pair a Mega Venusaur with a Dark type, with something that resists Psychic, with something that can handle those Psychic attacks. And having those answers and that defensive core with Mega Venusaur can make it really scary. So that's kind of why I gave it an A. But if you guys disagree, if you guys think that it should get a higher grade or a lower grade, leave your answer in the comments below, and I will see you all in the next video.
Thanks for watching, guys. If y'all enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like, and if you want, subscribe for more videos. Hope to see y'all in the future, and thank you for watching.